On democracy. I have been in this country since 1993, but chose to become a citizen only in 2006, largely out of a fierce loyalty to my roots as a Philippine-born woman. I participated in my first U.S. primary elections very recently on August 26, 2008. I grew up in the Philippines during the Marcos regime under martial law. I remember all too well the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus that meant that anyone loitering on the streets past curfew hours could be arrested. As I also remember how political dissidents could easily disappear, only to re-emerge later as dead bodies in rivers or backyards, visibly brutalized. I grew up in the Philippines at a time when martial law was theoretically suspended and, quote, democracy restored. I remember well the day Ninoy Aquino was shot on the tarmac with his bloody body and the image of his grieving widow, Corazon, becoming the symbol of grassroots-based collective shame and anger at having allowed a political dictatorship to go on for over 20 years. I remember well the 1986 elections, which Marcos theoretically won through bloody ballot snatchings, and I remember as well the power of a collective embodied in the peaceful People's Power Revolution that stopped tanks, won over soldiers, and eventually caused the U.S. to intervene, flying the Marcoses out of Malacanang Palace. While I do not idealize living in the U.S., I do appreciate what it potentially enables. A return, though not in an exact way, to some version of the ancient Greek notion of a polis, where the lifeblood of the state mingles with the lifeblood of its citizens, but allows an agora, an open space, a marketplace of ideas, and open discussion and debate. But I do not idealize the Greeks either, as they were a savage and violent race, much as they were the bearers of Western civilization's most cherished heritage in the arts, sciences, and humanities. Nevertheless, I do not take for granted the ability to read, to reflect upon, to engage in discussions and debate, and finally to vote, that this country potentially allows, if one chooses to become actively and critically engaged. It is a right that I did not grow up with, and one I value dearly. The term democracy, in terms of its ancient Greek origins, had two root words, kratos, meaning rule of, and demos, which means mob or crowd. It is a sobering reminder that the difference between mob rule and true democracy is simply the quality of engagement of its citizens. This is Dr. Picard of the Dr. Caroline K. Picard Show. For more information, go to www.carolinekpicard.com.